Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over the Øresund once again. We're going to return to Copenhagen in Denmark and revisit one of my favourite Danish craft breweries. And it's been a while actually since you've seen me do a video from these guys, and this is yet another collaboration that they've done with an American brewery and another beer that was released on the 7th of September 2018 through the Systembolaget Små Partiers. So for this one, as I say, we're going to return to Amager Bryghus from Tornby in Copenhagen, and this one is the Viking Tango Time. So this comes in at 7% ABV. It's a double dry hopped Rye IPA, this one, and it's brewed in collaboration with the Kings County Brewing Collective from Brooklyn in New York. So it should be a really interesting beer, this one. Amager Bryghus have always been really good when it comes to doing collaborations with the American breweries, so hopefully this is another good one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Amager Bryghus before. No doubt I will add some more in the near future. There's also a link down there to the future reviews that hopefully I can do from Kings County Brewing Collective. Very first time I'm encountering these guys, of course, never tried anything from them before. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and one for all the American ones. Those are both constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Amager Bryghus first off then, you've seen me review a number of beers from these guys. So Amager Bryghus are based in Kastrup in Copenhagen in Denmark, and they're probably one of the best known Danish craft breweries outside of the likes of Mikkeller and Coll, of course, and of course you can count Evil Twin in that bracket as well. And they're one of the bigger breweries that actually brew their beers in Denmark. But the brewery was established back in 2007 by two friends, Martin Valentin Lumsbach and Jakob Storm, both of whom were really avid home brewers. But apparently in school the pair were forced to do a chemistry and physics project together, so they wrote about the fermentation process that was going on in beers, and both later gained their brewing diplomas from the Scandinavian Brewing School, which is part of Copenhagen University, back in 2008, and the company has since gone on to become really highly decorated, probably one of the most decorated Danish craft breweries. But the first brewery that they had was located in Tornby in the southern part of the city, and they've been constantly expanding over the years, and they've just moved to a new site closer to the airport which has a much larger capacity. They've very recently changed as well to the 330ml bottles as opposed to the 500ml ones, and in some ways that's good, in some ways it's bad. I guess it means they can send more beers across to different places in the world. It helps their export market a little bit. I guess it kind of keeps the cost down a little bit because the Danish crown is quite a strong currency, of course, so it means they've got more product that they can sell at a slightly cheaper price, so it means that more people will actually buy it. So I guess going to the 330s is a good business decision for them, but at the same time I really do miss having the big half-litre bottles. You could always have a good pour with these beers when you're making reviews, but now I guess you're on the you'd still have some to go back to after the video, but with this one I think it's going to be straight in the glass and that'll be it. But yeah, Amager Bryghus, like I said, I've had some very good experiences with these guys before. Probably my favourite beers from them are Herr Fredriksson. The Batch 1000 was awesome. I really enjoyed Winter in Bangalore as well, and the Bastard Princess was really nice as well. So a really good brewery, and one that I'd highly recommend if you get the chance to try. They do some really good beers, and probably one of the best craft breweries you're going to find in Denmark. One of my favourite Scandinavian craft breweries, in fact, and they are very well known for doing collaborations with different American breweries. But that's all you really need to know about them just now. If you want to read a little bit more, check out the brewery website, and you can follow them on Facebook and keep up to date with all the latest goings on that they do. So anyway, on to Kings County Brewing Collective then, on to the second part of my brewery notes. So Kings County Brewing Collective are based in Brooklyn, and they were founded by three guys. So this is Tony Bellis, Zach Kinney and Pete Lengyel. So Tony comes from a management background in services and retail, while Zach has a background in advertising, and Pete spent a number of years working in labs as a microbiologist. But the three apparently met in home brewing groups around the kind of Brooklyn area in New York, and Pete had previously completed a brewing apprenticeship of a few weeks at Brooklyn Brewery, and then Tony took a job as a forklift driver and keg washer at Greenpoint Beer and Ale before working his way up to become the lead brewer. So they do have quite a good brewing pedigree in there. But the pair sat down together and wrote up a business plan later, and then they invited Zach to join them, who was one of their classmates at the American Brewers Guild in Vermont, and they agreed that by combining their skills it would form a really solid basis upon which to create a brewery. So they settled on the Bushwick area of Brooklyn to set up the brewery, and this area had a really strong brewing heritage because of the number of German immigrants that the area had had. And at the turn of the in 1900, at the turn of the century, there was around 10% of all American brewed beer was actually coming out of this small area in New York, although I guess it's probably not actually that small when you consider the times. But for 10% of this beer, or 10% of all the beer brewed in America to come out of this small area, it's pretty impressive actually, and it shows you really how good a brewing area that was. It said that the last brewery in this area had closed up in 1996, and so until 2016 there hadn't been another brewery in that area from what I gather, so it's kind of cool actually. But in 2016 these guys signed their lease on a warehouse in Troutman Street in the area, and it's got 5,000 square feet or something like that, or 5,000 square metres. It's probably feet considering it's America, but there they've got a tap room and you can try a lot of the different beers, and I think they serve food as well. But this is one of the New York breweries that's really getting rave reviews at the moment. I mean, there's Other Half, there's the Bronx Brewery, there's various things going on in New York these days, and it is cool to see that the New York State breweries are starting to get themselves over here into Europe, because for a long time, you know, it was California, some of the Michigan beers that were here. We also, you know, we're getting more and more of the New England ones and things like that as well, and Colorado was the other big beer state that we always had. So it is cool that we're starting to get more kind of random things from America, if you like. But Kings County Brewers Collective, a very, very highly rated brewery from Brooklyn in New York. So if you get the chance to try some of their beers, it probably is worth doing, and hopefully I can get out to New York at some point fairly soon and get a hold of some of the beers, or maybe I can get my mum and dad to bring me some back when they go over there. We'll need to see about that. But yeah, another really cool brewery to encounter. One of the things that's a bit different about this bottle, incidentally, is that Amager always used to put the Danish flag and the American flag on their collaboration beers, but they don't seem to do that anymore. But that's all you really need to know about the Kings County Brewers Collective at the moment. So let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So on the side here it has the little commercial description. I always enjoy reading these things from Amager. It says the tango has always been considered a dance originating from the borderlands between Uruguay and Argentina in the 19th century, but today we now know that the first to tango were the Vikings, and that they brought the dance to these remote southern shores many years earlier, when they accidentally took a wrong turn in the middle of the Atlantic and landed on the east coast of South America. But that's a story for another label. Many today think of it as a glorious adventure when Viking sailors went on a rampage in historic times, but in reality it was just an incredibly long and boring sea journey in the company of only other sweaty and smelly males. On one particularly long journey on the way to Tahiti, Viking captain Sigvaldi Sigelholmsson had become aware of the declining morale among his longboat crew, so he ordered a captured local slave to entertain the bored warriors, and by a streak of Odin's luck it turned out that this slave had been a dance instructor in his civilian life before pursuing a career as a slave. Antagoere was his name, meaning he who liked men too much and danced when he should be working. The charming young slave soon taught the sturdy Danish sailors tricks about eyeliners, lipsticks and colourful mascaras, and also how dancing cheek to cheek could make the whole mood of the ship sexier and brighter. Captain Sigelholmsson was thrilled with what he saw, and as a leading officer in the Viking Naval Command he ordered dancing to be compulsory on all Viking ships who were more than 2 days at sea, and in honour of their first instructor Antagoere, the Viking commander named the dance tango, and this, dear readers, is the reason why to this day Scandinavian men are the most sensual dancers in the world. It's a simple matter of their Viking genes. This is a collaboration beer made with Kings County Brewers Collective, KCBC in Brooklyn, New York, USA. So yeah, another one of these really random stories on this one. There you can see the Vikings with all their makeup on in this one. Really nicely presented actually. I always love these Amager Bryghus labels. There you can see the bottle cap on this one, which is the standard Amager Bryghus bottle cap. On the side here it tells you the malt base in this one is Pilsner, Vienna and wheat malt, and also some rye in there as well, flaked rye. The hops in this one are Galaxy, Idaho 7 and Simcoe Cryo. So we know that Galaxy is an Australian hop. It gives you, you know, usually pineapples and passion fruit. Simcoe as well, of course, is straight up passion fruit. Idaho 7 is one that we haven't encountered before, so a little bit about that. Idaho 7 is actually from Idaho in the States, as you would have guessed. It was released back in 2015 by the Jackson Hop Farm, and it's supposed to give nice piney resiny notes, and also some apricots, papaya, oranges and a little bit of a kind of pink grapefruit flavour as well. So my first time encountering that hop, and this one should be a really quite interesting beer. With that, turn the screen off and we can get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, another awesomely presented beer. As I said, I wish that they would still keep the Danish flag and the American flag on this one. And there you can see on the side, this is the Kings County Brewing Collective symbol there. Just put that in so you can see it on the camera there. But yeah, really nicely presented beer, this one. 7% double dry hopped Rye IPA. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really interested to try this one. Oh, doesn't want to do it. There we go. Nearly lost the bottle there. That's why. Look, there's a chip in the bottle there. That's why it didn't want to come off. Right, we'll need to be careful of that then. That's the first time I've had that on any beer that I've reviewed. So, be careful with your beer bottles in future. That's the message, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't think I actually chipped it there. There's no piece of glass. No, that is actually just a fault in the bottle that's obviously not been noticed. So, yeah, unfortunately that happens every so often. But yeah, as you can see with this one, and I'll tell you something, the passion fruits come out of this one right away, but it's a little bit more complex than that. We'll get to that in a minute. But as you can see, this beer has poured a really nice bright orangey colour. There's a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. It's just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall, you know, it is pretty nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, nice little bit of haze to this one. But overall, you know, it looks pretty nice. And as I was saying, there's some really good, really nice hoppy fruity notes coming out of this beer. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah. So with this one, lovely big passion fruit notes as you would expect. I can definitely get the apricots and a little bit of the papaya in this one too. Yeah, that Idaho 7, it really seems to be adding a little bit more kind of complexity to it. I mean, with the Galaxy, you'd always get a nice little bit of passion fruit, but also some pineapple and things like that as well. And the pineapple does come out of it, but the Idaho 7, I think, it's giving you these apricot and papaya notes, which really just, it gives it a really nice complexity, and it's actually lovely how that all comes out of the beer. So I have to say, well done to both breweries on choosing that hop. It's more an unusual one. I guess probably the guys at Amager Bryghus were very curious about this one when they heard about it, because I don't think I've ever seen an Amager Bryghus beer that uses that one before. But yeah, so definitely passion fruits, a little bit of pineapple in there, but I almost think there's a little bit of a kind of lychee or something in there too. It's almost got, if I was smelling this one blind, I would maybe think there's a bit of mango, or I would have thought there was citra or something in here. But the passion fruits come out really nicely. The apricot, like I was saying, is quite prominent. You've got a little bit of nice papaya in there as well. You definitely can pick that up. Not getting much in the way of oranges or grapefruits or anything. This one's really a lighter kind of fruit salady, juicy tropical kind of thing going on. It smells lovely though, this beer. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of it before you get stuck in. In terms of the sort of floral, grassy, piney sort of side of the hops, this one to me leans a little bit more towards the grassy side of things. There is a little element of floral character to the beer, but mainly it's a nice lighter kind of grassy one, and the malt base has a good bit of presence in this as well, so you can smell the nice wheaty, white bready qualities coming out of the beer. There's a little bit of biscuit, I would guess, from the Pilsner malt in this one as well. But the rye, I don't really get much of a kind of spice from the rye. I think it's the wheat malt that's really coming out of this one quite prominently. Yeah, I'm not getting too much in the way of rye. It does smell more like a kind of wheaty, white bready quality to this beer. But yeah, lovely passion fruits, lovely big juicy fruity aromas, little bit of that smoother white bready coating, a little bit of a biscuity sweetness as well. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But let's have a go at this one now. So this one is the Viking Tango Time, a collaboration beer between Amager Bryghus, one of my favourite Scandinavian breweries from Copenhagen in Denmark, and the Kings County Brewing Collective over in Brooklyn in New York. One of the very big upcoming, or one of the very popular, I guess you would say, upcoming breweries from New York State over in America. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's a nice beer, this one. It's not one of the kind of biggest beasts, if you like, that I've had from Amager Bryghus. I will say that about this one. This one, to me, comes across as a little bit more of a sessionable beer, if that makes sense. It's not too big in terms of the IBUs and things like that. The malt base in this one is quite smooth, and it does, the rye, I wasn't picking up the rye in the aroma, but the rye really does come out in the malt base of this one, which is nice. You do get that little bit of spice, especially when you're going further and further into the aftertaste with this beer. So yeah, let's start with that malt base then. You can feel that nice kind of pale malty quality, that just blankets the middle of your palate there. On top of that, you start to get a bit of a thicker thing from the nice wheaty notes, and down the middle line of your tongue there's a little bit of that kind of biscuity malt. And as the centre of your palate sort of dries out a little bit, you start to get the kind of the slightly spicy rye qualities coming out of the beer, which is really quite nice actually. Just pay attention to that as you go through the beer. Yeah, the malt base in this one is quite interesting. It's been a long time actually since I've had a rye IPA, but I like what this one's kind of trying to do. By no means is this beer going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs or anything like that. The malt base in it is quite nice, and I like it how it tries to be it tries almost to be like a little bit like a more subtle malt base, but then you just get that rye bite at the end. I like the way that the rye is kind of coming out in this one. Quite often when I've had rye IPAs before, they can be quite overpowering in terms of the rye quality, but this one just comes out a little bit more as you go into the aftertaste, and you can feel it in the middle of the palate. It just, you know, that little bit of rye spice just pushes its way out a bit more and more. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just let that kind of sink into your palate. There's a wee fly going around just now, which is really annoying. Get lost. But yeah, with this one, the hoppy side of things is interesting as well. That little bit of spice that the rye quality has, you can feel some of the piney resins from the Idaho 7 coming out in this beer. You can really feel them towards the front corners of your palate. So let's start with that then. Back corners of the palate, there's a little tiny touch of earthiness in there. As you come further forward, the sides of your palate gradually evolve more and more into a nice kind of piney resin, and as I said, by no means is this beer going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs, but it's got that nice big piney resinous quality there in the front corners of the tongue. And then as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and leans more towards the kind of grassy side of things, which is good. But yeah, that's a really nice beer. I like how everything in this one it goes together really quite well. The fruity side of this one's very interesting as well. So if you go behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. For me, you can actually pick up a little bit of that dark sour grapefruit flavour there, and again, that'll be from the Idaho 7. You can feel that just at the back of that oily bubble there, but as you come further forward on the palate, it's a little bit more of the passion fruit that comes out. You know, as I said, the Galaxy, the Idaho 7, the Galaxy and the Simcoe in this one will be giving you the passion fruit flavours, but there is a little bit of grapefruit just underpinning the beer. As you go further into the aftertaste, it evolves more a little bit into a kind of apricot sort of papaya type thing. I would definitely say that about this. Yeah, you can really detect that in this beer, and I like how everything kind of goes together. It's you know, you really get these little bit more complex fruits out of this one. There's a little touch of orange there when you go into the aftertaste too. You can pick out a little bit of the orangey notes right in the front centre of your palate, but you've got a nice. It's mainly the apricots and the papayas, I think, come out really nicely in this one as well, and you can get a little bit of the pineapple towards the front of your palate as well. So with this one, the question I guess would be, is it one of the best beers that I've had from Amager? I don't think quite. I don't think it pushes, you know, the Bastard Princess or the Winter in Bangalore and things like that. I don't think it's quite up there with that one. But is it a nice rye IPA? Definitely. And as I say, this is a style that I don't drink. I don't get to drink them all that often. You don't see too many rye IPAs about these days, to be honest with you. Even the West Coast IPAs, and the black IPAs and things like that are taking a back seat to the kind of New England hoppy type beer, or the New England oaty type beers these days. So it is nice to go back to a Rye IPA. Is it a good Rye IPA within that category though? Definitely, but I like this one, and the Idaho 7 hop. Having tried it for the first time, I think that's one that I really would quite like to see a little bit more of, because I think it's got a really nice kind of complexity to it. It'd be cool to see, a single hop West Coast IPA or a single hop New England IPA with that in it, just to fully acquaint yourself with the flavour. But it works really well with the rye. Actually, it does give you that nice kind of spicy piney note that the beer has. Kind of builds a good bridge with the rye qualities of the beer as well. So overall, this one is a very solid rye IPA. You wouldn't expect anything else from Amager Bryghus, and the reputation that Kings County Brewers Collective have as well, and you wouldn't expect anything less from them. So it's a really kind of solid collaboration beer, this one. I'd be interested to know what the Americans think of this one in comparison to the other KCBC beers. But for me, a nice beer, not quite pushing the best ones I've had from Amager Bryghus though, but I definitely would drink it again. There's no doubt in my mind about that. If it was on tap, I would have a go at it. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say probably a mid-bodied beer, this one. Yeah, mid-bodied beer, carbonation smooth, leans towards the oily side of things in terms of its mouthfeel, but it does have a little bit of wetness there. Malt base is quite smooth, but as I say, it becomes a little bit more spicy the further you go into the aftertaste. Good little bit of hoppy bitterness, but by no means is it going to blow your head off. I'd guess somewhere in the region of around 60 IBUs, somewhere like that, maybe 50, not quite sure about that, somewhere between 50 and 60 IBUs, and a nice little bit of juicy fruity character as well. But overall, really solid rye IPA, and it's a style, as I said, that you don't get to see all that often anymore. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one that you should have a go at, and it's cool to encounter my first beer from KCBC over in Brooklyn in New York as well. So hopefully I can try some of their own beers at some point fairly soon. But yeah, the Viking Tango Time, a double dry hopped rye IPA at 7% ABV from Amager Bryghus in Copenhagen in collaboration with Kings County Brewing Collective from Brooklyn in New York. So yeah, let's leave it at that. An interesting beer, and one that you should definitely have a go at. The Idaho 7 hop is one that I'm really curious about in the future, so hopefully we see more European breweries using it at some point fairly soon. But yeah, let's leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Amager and KCBC of course. Check out my social media. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Viking Tango Time from Amager Bryghus in Copenhagen in collaboration with Kings County Brewing Collective from Brooklyn in New York. Until the next time, it's Lange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål!